Ooh, okay. So, looks like all systems are a go in StreamYard here. Now I just got to wait for YouTube to let you know that I'm live, and then we can officially begin what will be the last episode of this podcast for a week. I think we got some people out there already. We got Gwendolyn G out there. We got Genosis in the cut. How y'all doing? How are you all doing? Thank you guys for stopping by tonight. Always supporting. Both of you always supporting. Shout out to the rest of y'all that are filing into the chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out. We got Sir Jarl. What's up, man? What's going on? How you doing? What's going on? Right, it is Viper time. It's another episode of VypDrive on deck. Tech for your needs just filed in. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Notifications have been sent out, which means people are coming in. We'll give them about a minute or two to come in, and then we'll go ahead. Oh, no, okay. That just went from 5 to 10. That jumped pretty quickly. Man, y'all don't waste time. Damn. Corey 1, what's going on? We got Joseph Hardison out there. We got Avon. What's up, Avon? Thank you for telling me how to correctly pronounce your name. Appreciate that. I got it wrong for so long. I wonder how people feel like when creators get their name wrong. They just probably send themselves steaming like, you get my name right. But yeah, that is where we're at. So let's go ahead and get Chris in here and we can get this party started and begin this episode of VypDrive. Whew, okay. So this is VypDrive episode 114. And tonight we got a guy who does everything, and I mean everything, on his iPad. This is quite literally amazing to me, but we get to talk to him next on VypDrive, which starts now. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, and welcome back to another episode of VypDrive. This is the podcast about tech, hosted by the man about tech. And tonight, I am bringing in the iPad magician. Yes, that's right. Mr. Do Everything on the iPad is here. Let's bring him in. Mr. Christopher Lawley is here. What's up, man? How you doing?
I am doing great. That might be the best intro I ever get in my life. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, I love when you
That's
all
awesome.
Love when you all say that. Thank you for joining me tonight, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. In fact, Siri just went off in the background. I didn't know if you heard that, but yeah, thank you. I'm super excited to be here and talk about tech and the iPad and all the fun things.
No doubt. That Siri, man, she always pops off when you least expect her or when you don't want her all the time, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
All the time. For those y'all watching on YouTube, if you want to go check out his channel, El Jefe just posted the link in the chat. So there you go.
Hey, thank you.
Shout out to my head of security handling business as usual. Thank you, El Jefe. But Chris, first question I ask every first time guest that come to the podcast. The people want to know what brought you to YouTube.
Ooh, I started making videos and stuff when I was like 12. And I would make little stop motion movies out of Legos. So I'd like build like the set and like make stop motion movies. And it was something I kind of did over time. And I fell out of it for a while. And I had, just like everyone, we've all had crappy jobs. I had a bad job and I was starved creatively. So I kind of did a bunch of different things that eventually landed on YouTube, talking about apps at first and then moved into the iPad because it was something that just really interested me. It was a computer that really excited me and just had a great future and a great platform. And it's just been a lot of fun to talk about. I think I've been doing it for just over 3 years now.
So you've been on the platform for 3 years. You've amassed over 60,000 subscribers and you cover iPad and almost iPad exclusively, right?
Yeah. I do some iPhone stuff and then I've talked about the Apple Watch a few times, but a vast majority of the stuff I do is about the iPad. Sometimes I'll talk about like bags and things like backpacks, messenger bags, whatever, just because that's kind of fun and gives me an excuse to spend money on them. Mostly the iPad.
Now, we won't even talk about Android tablets because as you all know, you know how I feel about Android tablets. The best Android tablet is an iPad. So you know it's true. You know it's true.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Chris, what drew you to the iPad in particular? Like, what is it about the iPad that you love so much that you just decided to, I'm hunkering down, bam, I'm building my foundation on the iPad?
So the biggest thing that drew me to it was the app ecosystem. I thought the app ecosystem was interesting. There was always new stuff coming out. There's the developers. It was a great community of developers, still is. It's an amazing community, really open. And they were always putting out something new, something interesting. So I got really into the iPad then. And then an app called LumaFusion came around. And LumaFusion was the app that got me to be able to go iPad only. I had all my videos there. It's multi-track video editor. It is a great app. It's a fantastic app. And
I would say you probably don't know this, but I started the first 6 and 7 months of my YouTube career editing all my videos on LumaFusion.
Nice. Did you enjoy it? Did you like?
I mean, when you're first starting out, obviously you don't have all the gear, so all I had was my iPad Pro. So I did everything on my iPad Pro. I shot, edited, and put everything out on my iPad Pro, and I was using LumaFusion to edit my videos. So absolutely love that app.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's such a great app. And I mean, I have a background. I've been doing video stuff for years. I've used Premiere, I've used Final Cut, I've used Avid. And just to find something like LumaFusion, it doesn't have all the features those other apps have. But what's kind of fun about that is since it doesn't have all those features, it makes you think a little bit more creatively, like do things more in camera or like find other workarounds or different ways to edit things. And that's what I like about that app.
All right. So now that we just had that discussion, it's time to get heavy on the podcast. We're about to get deep with it right here. So, as you know, I'm pretty sure you're aware, the biggest argument and consequently marketing points of the iPad is that Apple have marketed it as a laptop replacement. Now, I don't know if that's right for me because I love using my MacBook Pro. I love using Final Cut Pro. But for you in particular, definitely, I'm pretty sure that you agree because you run your entire business off of your iPad. So talk about how you use your iPad to run everything that you do and how it replaces a laptop or a computer for you because obviously you don't use a computer.
So for me, it definitely replaces a laptop and a computer. I still have a file server. It's a PC. It's just in the other room and it runs headless. There's no monitor or anything on there, but I just store files. Like I store old video projects and files and clips and stuff that I filmed. But all of my kind of like me sitting in front of a computer work happens at an iPad. And honestly, it kind of just trickled over time. It wasn't one of these things where I woke up one morning and was like, okay, I'm done with the Mac. I had a MacBook Pro and an iPad for a long time doing them together, and they overlapped. But I slowly just started like taking each task that I was doing on the MacBook Pro, like editing video, editing podcasts, answering email, task management, writing, all that stuff. I started taking it from a MacBook Pro and moving that over to the iPad. And then over time, like things like the original iPad Pro added the smart keyboard. And that was a big thing. Having a keyboard always attached, not having to wait for Bluetooth to connect. Bluetooth's a lot better now, but back in the day, like you would have to wait a few seconds before it connected. You'd start typing and you'd lose words. Now that there's like true trackpad and mouse support, that's huge for laptop replacements. I like the touchscreen. Having a mouse was kind of one of those things. I kind of started eating my own words about this. A while ago, I was like, yeah, I don't think the iPad ever needs a mouse. And if it did, I don't think I'd ever use it. No. And then last year with iPad OS 13, they added it as an accessibility feature. And I went all in on using it then. And then now at 13.4 was when they added true trackpad support. Right. And I was all over that with the Magic Keyboard now. That's probably my favorite keyboard I've ever used because you can have the iPad in the Magic Keyboard and then just one hand pop it right off and you have your tablet. So you have your computer mode, you pop it off, you have your tablet now. And I know the Surface computers have been doing that for a while and stuff like that. But I'll be completely honest, I don't care for Windows. My day job is in IT. My day job is in IT. I deal with Windows nightmares all day long. I'm sorry, people that love Windows and swear by it, but I do not like Windows. I can't handle it. I'd rather have Linux than Windows.
Now, I won't go as far to say I don't like Windows, but I definitely prefer Mac OS and iPad OS over Windows any day of the week because I, like you, my day job is IT as well. And obviously, we deal with Dell computers and Windows 10 all the time. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. I turn it off at the end of the day. Give me back on my MacBook immediately. I'm done.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, even my day job, I do my day job from my iPad, but I have to use a Windows computer every once in a while. So I'll remote in, and the Microsoft Remote Desktop app and Jump Desktop are two really good apps for this because they have good cursor support. But like I'll remote into admin servers and stuff from my iPad because I can. Like it works. Like I'll just sit at my desk all day with my iPad, remoting into servers, remoting into my users' computers, fixing issues, and then going back to iPad OS, answering email, dealing with like chats and stuff like that. All the fun stuff we have to deal with.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you said that you have used Final Cut Pro before, so you have experience using Final Cut Pro.
Yeah.
But you made the decision to do everything on iPad using LumaFusion to edit your video. So I'm just curious, what is the reasoning, or what is going on that you have chosen not to use the MacBook Pro, which I'm pretty sure you have as your option if you chose to go that route, and use Final Cut Pro, which is more feature rich and more powerful than LumaFusion, but you choose to use You choose to use LumaFusion over Final Cut. So can you talk about why that is?
The biggest reason is since I talk about working from an iPad, it's basically practicing what I preach. Like if I'm going to talk about working from an iPad, then I should work from an iPad. That's my thought. Now, I told you before we did this live stream, I was a little worried about how this live stream would go working from an iPad. So I went and borrowed my brother's MacBook because I was like, I don't want to mess it up because I do something funky on the iPad. And I was like worried. Like, I was like, if it was like my live stream, I was like, whatever. Like if I mess my stuff up, it's fine. I can fix it. But I was like, I don't want to mess somebody else's thing up. So I did. Like live streams kind of are like the thing that I think the iPad kind of needs to tackle next, like live stream and better podcasting support, like multi-stream audio. So like, I think that would fix a lot of issues on the iPad.
Yeah. I know, like I said, I know the app that I'm using tonight, StreamYard, they just opened up the port for hosting live stream from the iPad. Now, before you could only join live streams from an iPad. You couldn't actually start a stream on the iPad, but now they added the support to start a stream from the iPad. So with this particular program, you can start a stream from the iPad, and I know on the YouTube mobile app, you can definitely start a live stream from the iPad. So it is possible, but with the lack of I/O ports on the iPad, it kind of makes live stream a little. I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, I've done it before, but it's just not ideal, like you said. So I understand.
Yeah. And I just didn't want to mess your thing up, and I was just like, nope. I'm just gonna borrow his MacBook. I know I'm the iPad guy. I'm sorry. This is the one time I'm using a MacBook.
All right, so let's piggyback off of that, Dan. So obviously, you understand, even though that you like and prefer working from an iPad, you understand that there are limitations to working on an iPad. So what are some of the limitations that you have encountered working on an iPad?
So one of the big ones that I encounter every day is compiling code. You just can't do it on the iPad. There are restrictions. There are App Store rules against apps that can compile code into programs and whatever. So a lot of my day, I'll have to, again, remote into Windows servers and write code on a Windows server, or write code on my iPad using an app like Textastic, and then push it up to our GitHub repository using an app like Working Copy. But then I'll have to do any compiling that I do. I have to do it on a server. I can't do it on a iPad. The other thing I really miss, and I talk about this all the time, is After Effects. I really miss After Effects. That was something I used to have a lot of fun with. I would just mess around with it all day, anytime I had some free time. I wish there was something like that on the iPad. And I kind of every time I talk about it, I get a little bit of pushback from people. They're like, oh, you can't run After Effects on the iPad. But the first machine I ever had that ran After Effects had a spinning hard drive and 2 gigs of RAM. So it's like, I mean, my iPad's faster than that machine, so it could run something. But yeah, those are kind of things that I do hit walls and I have to work around them. But I also think it kind of helps me creatively to like hit those walls and be like, okay, I can't do this, so let me figure out another way to do it.
Definitely. Have you ever tried using Photoshop on iPad?
I did. I'm not super thrilled with how it is. I'm one of those people that when they said we're bringing full Photoshop, I took that as feature parity Photoshop, not, hey, it's the same code base, but not all the features are there. Right. The apps that I really like using for photo editing are Affinity Photo, Lightroom's good, Pixelmator is updating. It hadn't been updated in a really long time, but Pixelmator is starting to get some updates again that I'm really excited about. It's a lot simpler. but that's perfect for my needs because a lot of times when I do photo editing, I just need to like add some text or highlight something, or maybe just like put like a box around something, nothing special.
Yeah, I use Affinity Photo for all my thumbnails and things like that on YouTube. So I love that program.
It's so good.
So good. And the best thing about it is you pay one time, $20, unlike Adobe, where you got to pay monthly for all their programs and things. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's how Adobe gets you. Yeah. I pay I think it's like $10 a month or something for Lightroom. And I still use Lightroom over stuff like Darkroom because when I was a Mac user, I used Lightroom to edit photos. So it's what I know, but I've also bought presets and stuff over time. And it's hard to give that stuff up, especially, and I made my own presets too. So it's kind of hard to give that stuff up. I just don't want to just yet, but I kind of want to start moving to an app like Darkroom to edit all my photos, like the raw photos that come off my camera, just because it's a much better iPad app.
Gotcha. Now, I'm not familiar with Darkroom, but from what you say, it sounds like a pretty good app.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's what I call a good iPad OS citizen. It follows the rules of like what an iPad app should be. It doesn't like, how like on like the Google apps, they try and just do their own thing. And they try and like kind of take over and yeah, we know the iOS design language is this, but we're going to put the Android design language on here. Right. And instead, like these guys follow what the iOS design language should be.
Yeah, and that's the best way to get the most optimization out of your app. Just follow the guidelines of iOS and the iOS code, and you should be good to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Shout out to the 23 of you all that are watching the podcast live tonight with me and Chris Lawley. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of VypDrive. I appreciate you guys rocking out each and every episode with me. If you would like to support or donate to the podcast, you have the option in Super Chat, or you can become a channel member. Or if you don't want YouTube taking 30% of your Super Chat donation, you have the option to buy me a coffee. That link is in the description. Remember, none of this stuff is required, but anything that you're willing to do is greatly, greatly appreciated. So I thank you guys for rocking out on another episode of VypDrive. Shout out to those of y'all listening on audio only this week. Thank you for listening to another episode of VypDrive. Appreciate you guys rocking out with me and my man Christopher Lawley. If you want to follow him and his exploits, his information will be in the show notes. So go down there and check him out. He is legit, no doubt about it. Also, if you want to support or donate to the podcast, those links will be in the show notes as well. Not required, but anything that you're willing to contribute is greatly, greatly appreciated. But, and this is the important part, but if you happen to be listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, please, please, please consider leaving a rating or review as it helps more people discover the podcast. Like I keep saying, we're trying to get back into the top 200 of tech podcasts on Apple Podcasts, and I can't do that without your help. So if you happen to be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please consider going down there and leaving that rating or review. Greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening to VypDrive. All right, Chris. So I was watching some of your content today. I do my research before I come on these podcasts, and I was watching your Magic Keyboard review, and you were talking about how the Magic Keyboard kind of transformed the iPad Pro into that laptop replacement that we were mentioning earlier. I myself, I have a 2020 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard because, oh my God, I completely agree with you. That Magic Keyboard is just bang. Oh man! So talk about how the Magic Keyboard has transformed your iPad experience because, my God, I love mine.
It's so weird to kind of like just think about the iPad having a trackpad built into it now.
Yes.
It's for a long time, the iPad was the touchscreen device, the MacBook was the trackpad device. And now those lines are starting to get blurred more and more. Yeah. And I think the Magic Keyboard is one of those things that, like, if you were kind of holding out, if you're like, it's the iPad's not quite for me yet because I don't like touching the screen, or I like having a trackpad because it's more precise. Now it's there for a lot of people. Now, I will be completely honest. The Magic Keyboard is really expensive. Like, it is not a cheap product, especially when you have to buy an iPad Pro already. So what I've been kind of telling people is just when you're buying an iPad Pro, factor the price of the Magic Keyboard in to like that base price already, because you're going to want it. Like, it truly is. I've bought pretty much every keyboard that's been specifically made for the iPad, like every keyboard case, just searching for that one keyboard that I would just absolutely like. And this is it. There are a few quirks about it. Like, it doesn't have a function row. I know basically in that review that I did, the biggest complaint from people is that they wanted a function row. And I just don't know how Apple would add that. Like if you look at the design of the Magic Keyboard and how it kind of floats up and tilts forward a little bit, I just don't know how they would be able to put in a function row. But yeah, I can understand why people would want that. But for me, just having that trackpad and being able to like edit video with that trackpad right there, typing. When I like mechanical keyboards as well. So when I'm sitting at my desk, I usually use mechanical keyboard. But when I go to my office, fold everything up, take it with me, super easy. When I'm sitting at my desk at work, I just have that setup right there. And Magic Keyboard and iPad. It's great. It's a great combo.
Definitely. So about a function row on the Magic Keyboard or lack of a function row. When I think about a function row, I don't really use it that much. When I have it, I use it to maybe turn the brightness up and down, maybe turn the volume up and down. I don't really feel like I need that on an iPad because I can just touch the screen or go into the control center with the trackpad. Because you could access the control center with the trackpad and do all that stuff in the control center. So I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure other people use the function row for more advanced functionality than I do. But for the things that I use it for, changing the volume, changing the brightness, I don't need it because I can do it in the control center.
Yeah, I agree. I pretty much do it all in Control Center. I think one thing a lot of people don't know, and I don't remember if I put it in that review or if I found it afterwards, but if you go into the Control Center and then use the cursor and go over like the volume slider or the brightness slider, you can two-finger slide on that to turn the volume up and down and the brightness up and down. It's a great feature. So I'm fine with not having the function row personally. What I think might be more interesting is actually getting the touch bar on the iPad. I've been saying this one for a long time, that since the smart keyboard came out, that I don't know if it's possible or not. I don't know how much power it would require versus how much power the smart connector can output. But the touch bar on the iPad, I think, could be really interesting. You have your emoji picker right there. You can have your play pause button if you want there. You can have it can dynamically change for each app.
Yeah.
So that's what I would want. I'd want that over a function row. I'd want something that can change.
That is interesting that you bring that up because honestly, I have a 16-inch MacBook Pro here in front of me and with the touch bar, obviously, but I don't use the touch bar that much. The only time I really use it, to be honest, is for the emoji. Like, that's really it. But
yeah.
to have that on an iPad, that would definitely be interesting because it would probably be more intuitive on an iPad because the iPad is a touch device. So that would be interesting. Yeah.
And like a lot of like writing apps, you know how they have that bar at the bottom where there's like different shortcuts you can go. They can move that bar down to the touch bar, like the undo button and redo button. I know you have Control Z and stuff or Command Z, but and stuff like that. But like you could have the undo buttons right there for those that don't know keyboard shortcuts.
Yep.
Apps could display keyboard shortcut options right there, and I think it could be really interesting. But again, technically, I don't know how possible it is. It's just a fun concept to think about.
Yeah, I think that would make the already obesely expensive Magic Keyboard even that much more expensive if you add a touch bar.
Yeah. Like what? It's $350 for the 12.9. So what? Probably $450, $500. That's too much. That's way too much. That'd be way too much for a keyboard.
So, Chris, I don't know if you're aware, but there are these things that happen every week now. They're called Saturday Night Tech Bites, and they're a live tech debate. Oh, you're familiar? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're legit. So on the latest one, they were talking about iPads in relation to MacBooks. I think what the question was, if you were to add touch to a MacBook, would that eliminate the need for an iPad? I'm gonna say no, because number one, the iPad is more versatile and more portable. But number two, and more importantly, I don't see any MacBook with LTE in them.
That too. I'm wondering if the Apple Silicon will allow MacBooks to get LTE. But personally, like I like the iPad because it's so one of the big original reasons why I switched to the iPad, backing up a little bit, is I have ADHD. I have a terrible time focusing. Like something will happen right outside this window and my attention will go right there. So the nice thing about the iPad is you're limited to what you can have up on the screen. So it really helped my focus. I couldn't have Twitter up and iTunes and my text editor and a bunch of other things. I just had because this was even before multitasking. I just had my text editor. But I don't see the Mac replacing the iPad. Like I just don't like you look at like the kids that are in school today, like they use an iPad. Like I know some kids that have never seen a PC, or not seen, but have never used a PC or a Mac.
What's a computer?
yeah, exactly. What's a computer? Yeah, that commercial. After that commercial aired for like 3 or 4 months, all of my comments were, "What's a computer?" I was just like, why did Apple do this to me? Yeah, but I don't think it would. Like, I don't think it could replace a Mac, like, or a Mac could replace an iPad. No. And I don't think it would go the other way too, because I think there's a lot of developers, there's a lot of creative people that rely on the Mac. I think the iPad is the iPad, the Mac is the Mac. The lines may get blurred a little bit, but I think they will always be separate devices. And you know, some people will like the iPad, some people will like the Mac, and there's nothing wrong with liking either one. Like, you can like, and you can like both. You don't have to pick or choose. You can have both if you like.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah. People. I think a lot in tech we get in these like wars back and forth on like, oh, Android versus iOS, or Mac versus iPad, or Mac versus PC. It's like, it's okay to like more. It's okay to like everything. Like, it's fine. We all like tech.
Absolutely. I always like when we get into these iOS versus Android wars, I'm like, listen, one is neither better than the other, right? Because it doesn't really matter. All that matters is your personal preference. Which one works best in your workflow, your daily way of living. If iOS is better fitted for how you live, then you choose iOS. If Android is better fitted for how you live, then you choose Android. One is not better than the other. They both get you to the same destination. They just go about it in a different way. But I don't think there's no right or wrong answer to which is better. They just both exist, and they can both coexist with no issue.
Yep, absolutely. And honestly, I think competition's good. I think a lot of people get excited when like one like, oh, well, this Android phone sold more units than the iPhone or something like that. No, competition's healthy. Like, without competition, tech would get really boring.
Yeah.
And you kind of starting to see that with the big players. Like, you have all these companies like Microsoft and Apple and all that stuff. And when I think, honestly, when Apple's the underdog, that's when they're at their best. When Apple's sitting at top and they kind of start, like the iPad, perfect example. The iPad was stale for a lot of years until iOS 9. And I'd say the iPad Air 2 and iOS 9 was when the iPad started getting interesting again. But for a lot of years there, the iPad was stale. It was boring. Because there was no competition. We mentioned earlier, like Android tablets have never really taken off. I couldn't name one Android tablet right now, and I've used them. I've bought them to try them out because I genuinely was curious. Like, hey, can this do what the iPad can do? And the answer was no. And I didn't want to make a video being like, hey, Android tablets, they're not any good. Buy an iPad. I didn't want to be that guy. But yeah, I'm like, competition's healthy. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Competition is a win for the consumer. I mean, it gives up more options and better pricing. And I mean, it makes these companies go harder and be more innovative because they want to get the leg up on their competition. So competition is definitely healthy and it's definitely needed in the tech space.
Yeah, we just saw that with Canon. Canon released their new R6 and R5. I think without Sony, those cameras wouldn't exist, or they wouldn't be what they are today. I without Sony lighting that fire, there's no way.
Not another we got here. Have you used both Canon and Sony cameras, or?
I've never used a Sony camera. I have a Canon EOS R. That's what I film most of my stuff on. I love that camera. I got that camera because I was familiar with Canon. I knew all their menus and all the stuff about them. I had some friends that had that camera and they really liked it. They let me try it out. And I love that camera. That being said, I am eyeing the R6, maybe the R5. I don't know if I need it. It might be a little too much. I don't think I need that, but the R6, definitely I'm eyeing that camera. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus among the Canon faithful is that the R6 is a little bit more attainable because the R5 is kind of like overkill. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing too that I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about is the R6 has a 20 megapixel sensor versus the R5 having a 40 megapixel sensor, but less megapixels is better in low light. So if you want to get that really cinematic look and stuff like that, like less megapixels, like a 20 megapixel camera is going to be better than a 40 megapixel camera for that situation. That being said, tech specs are fun too.
Of course. I mean, we got to nerd out at some point. Nerd got
exactly.
Nerd, right? Nerd got a nerd.
Hey, I want 8K as much as everyone else. I just don't know when I would actually use it. I just want a camera that I can say, hey, I can film 8K on this, but I won't ever use it.
Yeah, I mean, with the way my computer setup is now, right now, I'm trying to work in 4K when it's feasible, man.
Yeah.
I'll leave the 8K to Jonathan and Mark. They can have the 8K stuff.
Yeah, they do a great job with it.
Oh yeah.
The 4K stuff actually works really well on the iPad. I've started filming a few of my videos now using the Canon EOS R in 4K. I was doing a lot of 1080 stuff before that, but it actually handles really well. Sometimes you have to turn the preview down a little bit in LumaFusion, but for the most part, the iPad's handling 4K stuff pretty well.
Yeah, I haven't uploaded a video on iPad in a while, but I've heard that the iPad is pretty much chewing through video for the most part. So I believe it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's funny because I actually went and bought the 2021 because I needed more storage. I had the 2018 12.9 inch iPad Pro, but I only bought the 500 gig one because the 1 terabyte model was so expensive when it initially released. I was like, I'm not gonna spend that money. But I was constantly running out of space, so I was like, I gotta upgrade. So I got the 1 terabyte model.
Definitely, I completely understand. I mean, especially for you that's all you're using the iPad. I mean, I know you have like the file server, but as far as your everyday device, the only thing that you're using is an iPad. So you want to have the most storage possible. But let's talk about that though, because we got the 2018 iPad Pros, and then Apple a few months ago released the 2020 iPad Pros, and there is very little to no difference between these two devices. One is running the A12X, and one is running the A12Z. The only difference is that the A12Z unlocks an extra core of the GPU, so they're almost performance-wise, they're practically identical for the most part. So I guess my question to you is the 2020 iPad Pro even necessary, given how incrementally better it is than the 2018?
I would say if you have a 2018, you have zero reason to upgrade.
Right.
The other thing that the 2020 gets you is an 2 extra gigs of RAM. So if you're doing normal stuff like replying to emails, writing in Pages or Word, watching video, that's not going to do you any benefit. Those extra 2 gigs of RAM, it's not going to do anything for you on the iPad. But if you're doing stuff like podcasting, editing video, maybe like heavy drawing or animation on the iPad, that extra RAM could give you just nice little boost right there. Keep more apps open in the background, things like that. The other thing too is the 2020 iPad Pro gained the LiDAR sensor.
Right.
I'm not super big into AR. I don't think Apple's given us a reason to care about AR yet. I know they're doing a big push of it, but and I know we all know the Apple glasses or whatever they're going to call them are coming, but I still don't see a legitimate reason for why I should care about AR.
You're right.
So I'm like, okay, it's cool that it's there. But I won't use it. They also upgraded the camera. So like you were talking about at the beginning, like if you are filming YouTube videos on your iPad and editing videos on your iPad, this is a great iPad for you because it's got a good camera and it's got a great processor, a lot of RAM, so you can edit 4K videos on it if you want. So I think it depends on a lot of needs, but I think it should exist. And I think it does exist. It's just a kind of a bummer that it didn't get more. I really wanted that A13X processor because when Apple announced the iPhone 11, they were talking about the A13 and all the cool stuff it could do. I'm a processor nerd. I love hardware. I love getting into those really nerdy tech specs. And when they were talking about all the stuff that it could do, I was like, oh, I wonder what the A12 or A13X is going to look like. And then we never got one. So kind of a bummer, but hey, we always have the A14 to look forward to.
Yep, and that's coming very, very soon. But me and you got to talk because you said something in your iPad Pro review, and I was like, what? Did he say that for real? Is he serious right now? So you were talking about the iPad Pro 2020 camera, because obviously this iPad comes with 2 cameras. You got a regular wide-angle lens, and you got an ultra-wide-angle lens, and it actually came out of your mouth that you would prefer a telephoto lens? Did I hear that right, or was that a mistake on your part?
Nope. So I don't know why. I think I'm in the minority when it comes to this opinion. I don't like ultra wide. I don't like that 15 millimeter or 12 millimeter. I think it's too wide. I don't like it. I like that 50 millimeter to like 85 millimeter range for like interview style stuff and portraits and stuff like that. I don't know. I just don't like the ultra wide. I don't use it. I have my iPhone 11 Pro right here. I don't really use it on this one. I use the telephoto lens sometimes, but mostly I stick to the normal one, the 24 millimeter. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the ultra wide. I don't know why. I know a lot of people like it, but yeah. Yeah, I know.
You are definitely in the minority. I should know you and Google.
Yeah.
You guys are both in the minority because we know that Google
Yeah.
Google prefers telephoto over ultra wide too. And where did that get you, Google? Where did that get you?
Yeah. How's that Pixel phone hand going?
Oh, shots fired! Shots fired on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to use my soundboard tonight. I appreciate
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
I mean, I think the Pixel 3a was one of the most interesting phones last year, but the flagship Pixel phone, no, it was not interesting, and the price tag was way too high.
Oh god! I mean, it was a decent device, but compared to in competition, it was just playing out of the league. Like they didn't outfit that phone enough features and things to compete with the rest of the competition at all.
Yeah.
Oh god, I just can't believe that. I can't believe that you prefer a telephoto over the ultra wide. Now, see, let's talk about this a little bit because the reason why I think ultra wide is a better option in a telephoto because with a we know that most of these smartphone cameras have a digital zoom, so you can digitally zoom in, or you could physically walk closer to your object or your subject. It's kind of hard to mimic that same effect with an ultra wide. Sometimes you can't back up to get a wider field of view, and obviously there is no digital wide view. It's not. So yeah, I don't know.
And that's a really good point too. Like I actually didn't think about that. But the way compression works with the more zoomed in you get, like the more filled out your subject looks. Like the wider you are, the more kind of stick looking you are, and then you go 24, 50, stuff starts to get a little wider. So that's why I've just always liked the look of like a 50 millimeter lens or even an 85 millimeter lens. I've just liked that look. It's just more cinematic to me. But yeah, no, I totally understand. On a consumer device, an ultra wide lens is probably more useful. I just like the look of the telephoto more.
and as much as I'm getting on you, there's nothing wrong with that. Like at the end of the day, like I keep saying, it's all about personal preference. You prefer the telephoto, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, for your workflow, you probably have more use for telephoto, so I can understand that definitely.
Yeah. And like you said, like it's just a personal preference. Everyone gets to pick and choose, and that's what makes things interesting. I would actually be really curious to see Apple's statistics. They'll never release this,
of course,
but I would love to see like what percentage of people use like the normal lens versus the wide versus the telecphoto. I'd love to know that information. I don't think they'll ever release that.
No, I know. I think last year I took a poll on Twitter asking people which one they prefer, and ultra wide won by a long margin. So
really, okay, that's interesting.
But you got to remember, I took this poll on Twitter, and I'm followed by mostly tech people, so that wasn't really the average crowd. So, but
I wonder if a lot of people too know the difference. Like the iPhone 11 did a really good job of minimizing the differences between all the lenses. But like for a long time, like when we got the first two lens iPhone, which I believe was the iPhone 7, the telephoto lens was significantly worse than the standard lens.
Yeah.
And like I never used it on the iPhone 7 because me being a tech person, knowing the tech specs, I'm like, well, I'm going to get a worse photo if I use this lens, so I might as well just walk closer. And now they're a lot closer as far as spec wise. So yeah, I'd be kind of curious to see if like the average person knows about that.
I'm gonna guess probably not, but I mean, as the phones come with these different lenses more and more, they're gonna get acclimated. To it real quick because I mean they're now starting to become standard options now. So I mean, some people are gonna experiment and figure it out. I thought you were going to say something.
No. Sorry, I was just taking a breath.
Oh, good. So let's talk about your site. I think it's called the Untitled site. So talk about what you do on your website.
It's mostly my website's mostly just to host for my videos. I am a firm believer in the open web and that like we should be keeping a history of everything and like we should have records of all the stuff that happens on the web. Google, YouTube, I don't know if they're a good steward of all that stuff. Like, because you got the algorithm,
Yeah.
And sometimes the algorithm can be your friend, sometimes it can't. So I just want, personally, my website is mostly a record for me of, hey, this is all the stuff that I've done. These are the podcasts I've appeared on. These are the videos I've made. Here's like blog posts that I've written, which I haven't written a blog post in years now. I'm a terrible writer. But yeah, I just like having a spot for that. But I also have a few other things on my website. So the thing that I think a lot of people like the most is a shortcuts gallery. For those that don't know, Shortcuts is an application that is on everyone's iPhone and iPad now, and it's for automations. You can build these little applets in here that can do different utilities. I use them to add stuff to my task manager, turn on lights in my house. Heck, it even turns on my TV. You could do all sorts of different things with it. There's so much. You could play music to HomePods, whatever. And I have a gallery of shortcuts on my website. So I think that's where a lot of people get a lot of shortcuts, I think, hopefully. I took analytics off my website, so I have actually no idea what anyone does on there. But before I did, a lot of people were going to the shortcuts gallery and kind of pulling stuff off there. So if you're ever interested in like what shortcuts can do and want to get started with it, go to theUntitledSite.com. There's a shortcuts tab. Just click on that. There's stuff in there like a clipboard manager and all sorts of interesting things.
I'm going to have to do that because, to be honest with you, I don't use shortcuts. I mean, they're very un-Apple-like. And what I mean by that is, for the first time, really, since I've started using Apple products, the shortcuts are something that I have to go in there and configure. Usually with most features, Apple pretty much they automate it for you. So you just hit a button or something and then it just goes. But shortcuts is not like that. The user actually has to go in there and program the shortcuts to whatever actions they want and then do and figure out how to do all that. And I was just like, you know what? I don't have time for all that. I'll figure it out later. So maybe I will have to go to your website and try to figure out how to use shortcuts. Yeah.
And I have a few videos on it already, but I'm going to be doing some other ones because Shortcuts got some major updates in iOS 14. There's some cool things that you could do now based on like automation triggers. So like at specific times, Shortcuts can automatically run in the background. So there's some cool stuff you can do with that. But Shortcuts is a lot like Shortcuts started off an app called Workflow. It was an independent app and then got bought by Apple. But to me, it's basically the iOS and iPad version of Automator. Automator is an app that's been on the Mac for years that you could build different automations with. Also Apple Script as well. I get really nerdy into automations. In fact, it's totally out of frame, but I have an old iPad mounted on the wall over there that runs an app called PushCut that basically when specific things happen that I have set up, it will trigger different automations automatically to run in the background that I'll never see. And it just makes things happen. Super nerdy, but I really enjoy it.
Nice. All right. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. They're going to kind of relate to each other. But the first one being, given that you use iPad and you are a big fan of iPad, what would you like to see on iPad in the future that we don't have on them currently?
The biggest thing that I've been asking for a long time now is Pro apps. I really want Apple's Final Cut app, Xcode, and Logic. I'd love if they brought Compressor and Motion as well, just because those are niceties to have. But I really think that they call this the iPad Pro. We need to be able to have Pro software on it to do Pro work. It's not. I don't think the iPad Pro is just a consumer device. It absolutely can be a great device that, hey, I'm answering email, I'm watching movies, I'm reading a book, whatever. It could be great for that. But I also think it's got Pro in the name, so Apple needs to bring that software.
Woo! Tell them, Chris. Tell them. I like
it. Yeah. That's the thing I've been asking for ever since the first iPad Pro.
I think with the transition to Apple Silicon, we will probably get Final Cut Pro on iPad sooner rather than later because it's only a matter of time. It's no longer a matter of if. Now it's just a matter of when because everything's going to be running on the same chipset. So there's no excuse for not having Final Cut Pro on iPad. So it's coming.
Yeah, that was my thought as well after the keynote for the WWDC keynote. I was like, well, now that everything's going to be there's no reason. Like you have to bring it. I mean, obviously they'll have to do some UI changes because the iPad is touch first, even though it does have a trackpad. It still needs to be like every application needs to be good for touch and the trackpad.
Right. and everybody might not have a keyboard, so you got to make it touch first. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like, and a lot of times when I'm editing videos, I'll pop my iPad off the keyboard and just sit on the couch and edit a video just with the tablet. I won't use a keyboard. I mean, I like keyboards. When I went to film school and stuff like that, like my teacher, he like distilled in us, learn the keyboard shortcuts to all the editing software you use, because it'll make your editing go so much faster. But sometimes I just want to sit on the couch and edit. So yeah, it's great to do either way.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of the iPad. Like I was saying earlier, the iPad is so versatile that it allows you to use it in more situations than a MacBook. The other thing about a MacBook that I don't know if they talked about when they were debating that in the Tech Bite is that the MacBook comes attached with a keyboard. The iPad does not come attached with a keyboard, so you can easily move the iPad around in more situations because it does not have a keyboard attached naturally. Now, obviously, if you add the magic keyboard on there, then that doesn't matter entirely. But out of the box, the iPad is tablet only, so it allows for that more. It allows for it immediately. I can't talk. It immediately allows for more versatility because there's no keyboard attached to it by default.
Yep, absolutely. And it's not just the Magic Keyboard or the Smart Keyboard Folio that you can attach to it. Like you can do a Bluetooth keyboard. You can do any wireless mouse, Bluetooth wireless mouse. I use the Apple Magic Trackpad, like the full trackpad, when sitting at my desk next to a mechanical keyboard, because I like that mechanical keyboard setup. I have a laptop stand that my iPad sits on, so it's kind of up higher, a little more ergonomic, so I can sit here for a long period of time and edit videos without messing up my back.
Right. Definitely. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question about the iPhone, because obviously we know the iPhone 12 is coming in a few months here. So what would you like to see on iPhone that is not currently on our iPhones that they are currently constructed?
I want to see a foldable iPhone. I really want it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the whole foldable thing is a gimmick or a fad or anything, or if it's going to stick around. I don't know. But I would be really curious to see what Apple would do with a foldable iPhone. Because I think that could be really interesting. But yeah, foldable iPhone.
Now there are patents out there of Apple working on a foldable type device. I don't know if I would call it foldable because they're talking about having two screens fold by a hinge, and that's not really a true foldable to me, but we know that Apple is working on something along those lines, so you might.
Yeah, and I think also like a foldable iPad could be interesting too. Did you ever watch Westworld?
I have not. No.
Okay, so they have these devices in there that they're phone size, but then they fold open, and now they're a tablet. And it's really interesting. Yeah. It's a pretty interesting device. And obviously it's, science fiction. It's not real, but it just looks really cool. So yeah, I would totally take a foldable iPhone, and if it like opened up, you'd get like iPad OS. So you have like multitasking and features like that. That could be pretty interesting.
Now that would be crazy if you had like a foldable iOS device that was, when you folded it up, it ran iOS. But when you fold it out, it ran iPad OS. That would be crazy.
Yep. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I think
that would be
and like
cool.
you could have like more apps in the dock or something. Like,
Right.
yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Now, are you familiar with the Samsung Galaxy Fold?
Yes, I've seen it. I've never used one, but I watched all the videos when they came out, especially the ones where they kept breaking, which I felt terrible for Samsung. Like, oh my gosh, I felt horrible for those people because somebody put a lot of work into that phone,
Right.
and then it got rushed. Some executive decided to rush it, and yeah, but it's definitely a very interesting device. The Motorola Razr.
Yeah.
That one looks interesting. I think foldable phones right now are like really interesting, but I don't think anyone's quite figured out what the like the game changing feature and like how exactly they're going to work. I think they're all kind of still like public prototype phase almost.
Yeah, I agree. I like usually like when we think about new tech that comes out, you think about new tech coming to solve a problem. Or maybe coming to solve a problem that we don't know that we're going to have in the future. But the Fold doesn't do anything like that. I mean, I don't really feel like I need one because if I want to use a regular size phone, I have my iPhone. If I want a bigger screen, I have my iPad. I don't need a foldable phone. I'm comfortable using either or device. I don't need one device to do both things, especially if it can't do both things as well as my iPhone by itself or my iPad by itself, which probably it can't. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be a really next couple of years, I think, is going to be really interesting for phones. I kind of think phones got boring there for a while, like the iPad did back in the day. Phones got boring. Now things can kind of get interesting again, almost.
Okay. Now I got to ask you a very important question.
Okay.
Since you are the iPad magician.
Okay.
Do you actually, and be honest with me, do you actually take pictures with your iPad?
No. Nope. I don't do it. I don't do it. I think the last time I did it was for my iPad 2020 review. I don't do it. I always have my phone in my pocket. I know my phone takes better pictures than my iPad. It has a better camera array. No, I don't. And also it's kind of awkward too. Like the 12.9 inch iPad Pro is so big. It's too awkward to hold as a camera. I have seen that person at concerts though, where the whole time they will sit there with an iPad trying to record the concert, and I'm just like, enjoy the moment, people.
Not on the concert,
yeah,
man. Oh,
I'm just like, enjoy the moment.
Oh, dude, what is really going on at a concert? Oh, that's like the worst place you could use your tablet for a camera. Come on, y'all. Oh,
yeah. It's like it's all low light too, so it's gonna look terrible.
You know what? I know that we say that the best camera is the one you have on you. But if it's an iPad, just put it away. Just put it away.
Just be in the moment. Don't use it. Don't use it.
Put it away. Wow. iPad as cameras at concerts. Are you?
I've only ever seen it once. And it was just, I was like, the whole time I was like, really? You're gonna stand there the whole time holding it up like this? How are your arms not just falling off?
Right. Arm about to be jello, literally.
Yeah.
But you know what, Chris? It's a 2020 thing. That could become so 2020 here. iPad cameras. That's a 2020 thing. It's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they could get a lot better, and I hope they do. Like, I kind of talked about in my review that this could be the one-stop device for somebody that wanted to get started on YouTube. It doesn't have to be about tech YouTube or whatever. Like anything on YouTube, you can film on it, you can edit on it, you can kind of sort of upload on it. Hopefully, if you upload through the YouTube app, they limit it to 1080p. So what I'm hoping with this new codec that's coming to iOS 14 that we're going to be getting 4K YouTube, they will allow you to upload through the YouTube app at 4K. So hopefully we get that, but you can kind of sort of upload. Right now, I do all my uploading through my file server.
I wasn't aware that you couldn't upload in 4K on the YouTube mobile app. Oh, I'm not surprised though.
Maybe they might have changed it by now. This was years ago that I was doing it, and then when I realized that all the videos that I had made in 4K were all limited to 1080p, I stopped doing it, and I started building that file server, and yeah.
All right. So besides iPad, what other tech do you use on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we talked about my camera, the EOS R. I'm really big, and I'm getting really big into photography again. I have the aperture light, the 120D Mark II. That's probably one of my favorite pieces of tech that I bought lately. It's just nice soft light. It's such a good piece. You and I were talking before we started. I have the Shure SM7B microphone. That's what I'm talking into right now. It's such a good microphone. My brother, he's an audio engineer. He recommended it. He's actually handed a mic to Tim Cook. It's so weird. He's met Tim Cook. I have it. But my favorite piece of tech. Now this was sent to me. I did not pay for this, so disclosure. CalDigit. They make this USB-C Pro dock. It works with Thunderbolt and USB-C. It's as far as I know, it's
on your video. Nice.
Yeah. So like I can do plug SD cards into it, headphones into it. It is a great dock. So you can plug a MacBook Pro into it for Thunderbolt. You can plug an iPad into it for USB-C. It's USB-C Pro dock by CalDigit. They sent it to me, so disclosure. But it is probably my favorite thing sitting on my desk.
Is that on Amazon?
I believe so. Let me see here.
You said a Calvin?
CalDigit. CAL. Yeah.
Okay, USB-C dock. Okay, Pro dock. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. It's kind of long. It should be gray.
More than $200.
Yeah, it's a little expensive, but I mean, it's also a Thunderbolt dock, so all Thunderbolt docks are expensive like that.
Send him an email.
yeah. No, send him an email because it is a fantastic hub. It is hands down my favorite USB-C hub, dock, whatever that I've used. It's fast and it's also powered, so it doesn't rely on bus power from USB. So it's faster than just like a normal dock you would just, or like a hub that you would plug in. It's probably my favorite thing sitting on my desk.
Yeah, I'm interested because I have right now I'm using a HyperDrive hub, but it's like just a regular 91 USB hub. It's not like special or anything. But I got this Rodecaster Pro podcast and studio mixer thing over here, and I would like to plug that into a hub, but I can't plug it into a hub because then my headphones get all wonky because I guess the hub isn't powerful enough to power that thing. So I wonder if that cow dock that you were talking about will be able to power my Rodecaster Pro without any issue with my audio. Because right now, because right now I have to plug my Rodecaster Pro directly into the MacBook, and I would rather not do that. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it should. And there's also a headphone jack right on. Do you plug your headphones into the Rode Podcaster or your MacBook?
I plug right now. I have these plugged directly into the Rodecaster Pro.
Okay, yeah, then it should work just fine. I have a Scarlett Solo. That's my audio interface.
Right.
It powers it perfect. I mean, the Rode Podcaster, obviously it's different. So, but yeah, it powers that with the Shure SM7B. It works great.
Nice. Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to send them an email. That thing's like $200. Like,
yeah, it's not cheap at all.
But, it's not.
And again, they sent it to me, but I really stand by it. It is hands down my favorite piece of tech that I've gotten in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, especially for like docking something like an iPad or a MacBook. I mean, that seems like it's legit.
Yep, and it charges SD card in the front, so you're filming, plug it right in. You don't have to go and find your USB-C to SD card reader, and there's even Ethernet in there. I don't know how close you are to your router or switch or something, but there's even an Ethernet port on it. So
yeah, fortunately, I'm not that close, but yeah, that's pretty cool that you have that option, though. Definitely.
Yep.
All right, before we got out of here, Chris, what is one thing that we can do with iPad that most people might not know that iPad is capable of?
One thing you could do. I think editing video is one big thing that I think a lot of people don't know about. But file management too, as well. Like there is external storage support now. That was a big thing last year. There is mouse support now. It really is its own computer. I anytime I say it in a video that I say, the iPad is my computer, people will say, hey, yeah, the iPad's not a computer, it's a tablet. But it is. Like, what defines a computer? It has a CPU, it has a GPU, it runs an OS. It's my computer of choice. But yeah, out of stuff that I'd say video editing is probably the big thing that I think a lot of people don't know about. Yeah, and Movement Fusion's the way to do it. Sorry, go ahead.
Definitely. I would say, obviously, us creator nerds, we are well aware that the iPad can edit video, but like for the everyday consumer, probably not aware that it has video editing capability. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and hopefully Apple will bring Final Cut because iMovie is just a waste of an app right now.
You know what? One more time for the people in the back. Oh, shot fired! Shot fired on the podcast. Woo! Damn! And on that note, we are going to get out of here. Christopher Lawley, excellent conversation, man. Thank you for joining me tonight. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for having me on. This was a ton of fun.
I have fun too, man. Before we go, let the people know where they can find you.
You can go to my website, theentitledsite.com. There's links to my YouTube channel there. All my YouTube videos are there. But yeah, you can go there, or you can just search Christopher Lawley on YouTube. I'm the tech YouTuber, not the folk singer. So yeah, if you go to the folk singer, you went to the wrong channel.
Right. Definitely. Shout out to those of y'all that watched the podcast live tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of VypDrive. Appreciate you guys watching each and every week. If you want to go check out his channel, El Jefe just pasted the link in the chat. So definitely click on the link. Go give my man a look. He is legit. If you want to know everything about the iPad and everything about how to work off an iPad, he is the man to go to because that is what he does, and he does it pretty damn well. If you super chatted, brought me a coffee or anything like that, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you doing that. Appreciate you guys supporting and rocking out with me each and every episode of VypDrive. Shout out to those of y'all that listen this week on audio only. Thank you for listening to another episode of VypDrive with me and Chris Lawley. Appreciate you guys supporting each and every episode of VypDrive. If you want to go check out Chris Lawley, his information will be in the show notes. Definitely go give him a look if you're interested in iPad or working off of only an iPad. He is definitely the man to go to get that done. He is legit. Also, if you want to support the podcast or donate, those links will be in the show notes as well. Not required, but anything that you're willing to do, greatly appreciate it. Also, if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving that rating or review to help more people discover the show so we can get back into the top 200 of tech podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So for all my audio listeners over there, please consider leaving that rating or review on Apple Podcasts. And shout out to the Genosis for putting my main channel link up in there. If you guys want to go check out my main channel where I do mostly Apple content, that is the link to get to the main channel. So appreciate you guys rocking out with me. As most of y'all watching on YouTube know, as I've said before, this is the last episode of VypDrive for the next 7 days. So you guys don't have to worry about me going live every night anymore. I am finally giving you all a break for a week. I'm gonna relax. I'll be on the Painfully Honest Tech podcast tomorrow night. Like I said, we have John Redinger as a guest on there, so that should be good with me, Zach, and Jason. But as far as this podcast is gone for the next week. It'll be back on next Monday night. We got a double hitter. Got 2 guests coming on next Monday, but for the rest of the week, VypDrive is off air. So there you go. Appreciate you guys rocking out. But yeah, that's going to conclude tonight's episode. So you guys go ahead and rock out and enjoy your Monday. But until the next time, people, this your boy Viper, the man about tech. You know where to find me. So come back. Bum on.